Hello, welcome back to the channel. So we're going to take a look at these rifles here. One is a Remington and the other, well, the Remington rolling block specifically, and this is a Mauser model. It's a K98, so it's a Mauser model of 1898. Now we're not looking at these rifles in particular, or specifically. We're talking about Remington and Mauser, and what these two companies, manufacturers kind of have in common. And what they have in common is, over the kind of late 19th and early 20th century, these two guys, between them, Remington and Mauser, pretty much armed the small nations that couldn't arm themselves. This is coming from a kind of a milsurp perspective. I'm primarily a milsurp collector. Milsurp rifles are they're my bag. They're kind of what I like. And if you're viewing this channel, I'm going to make the assumption that they're what you like. So when I say they arm the nations that couldn't arm themselves, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about for kind of the late 19th century, kind of the 1860s kind of onwards, a lot of smaller nations, the likes of Peru, Colombia, a lot of Uruguay, all these small nations kind of in South America, Central America, places like that. A lot of them went with the Remington rolling block. It was simple. It was very affordable, as martial rifles kind of go. They didn't have the means of manufacturing firearms themselves for their own military, so they bought from already established firearms manufacturers. Remington were a very long established firearms manufacturer in the United States. They come up with this design kind of in the middle 1860s, and it really took off. And the reason it took off is pretty much because of its simplicity. Soldiers in kind of these developing nations at the time could be very easily trained to operate effectively operate one of these. They're very easy to use. Very reliable, a very strong action, because of the way it works. If we look to see, the hammer kind of fires and falls into that kind of notch right there, and when it's in place, that's a very strong action. Not a budge. There's not a chance that block is gonna roll out of battery and expose the shooter to any kind of gas or whatever. And of course, they use even very early metallic cartridges. And these countries across Central and Southern America, a lot of other countries as well, like even in Europe, Denmark, Sweden, kind of adopted rolling blocks. And then once kind of repeating firearms became the thing, what did they go to? The Mauser. Now this is a model of 98, but if we're talking about Mausers across South America, they would have been kind of primarily the model of 1893, 1895, in around that. I don't have one of those, so I can't display one. But there isn't a whole lot of difference between those 1893 and 1895 Mausers, except what they're chambered in. They're chambered in 7mm Mauser or 7.65mm Mauser, depending on whatever the country wanted. Mauser would just make them for them. Mauser in Obendorf. That's why we talk about these Mausers that are military surplus from these South American countries, like Chilean Mausers or Peruvian Mausers, even across Swedish Mausers, very, very popular. Now, Sweden did make Mausers themselves. They liked the design. They had the means and capacity to manufacture their own rifle, and what they wanted to use was the Mauser action. Persian Mausers, a lot of the kind of Ottoman states, they would have used rolling blocks as well, and then when they had the opportunity to buy repeating rifles, they bought Mauser rifles, Mauser 1893s or 1895s. But the Remington, such a good action, such a strong action, such an easily used rifle. A lot of these got sent back to Remington to be rechambered in 7mm Mauser, so they went back into service with whatever countries they were. I mean, the repeating Mauser rifles, they were there was no action going on in those, but the frontline troops would have had their Mauser rifles, and troops that didn't kind of need a very top of the line repeating rifle, they would have had their Remington rolling block, again chambered in 7 or 7.65mm Mauser. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Remington, Mauser, thank you very much, gentlemen, for providing these superb firearms to the smaller nations that couldn't really arm themselves. You made some good stuff, and they keep on trucking. So thanks very much for watching this. Please like, please subscribe. Any comments, stick them down below, and I'll be happy to talk to you again. Bye.